avionics stream on Boeing 737 Classic, Boeing 737NG, Boeing 777, Airbus 330, Airbus 340, trainer aircraft Cessna A152, King Air C90, ATR 72-500, and he has also acquired management qualification masters in air transport management from City University, UK, with distinction. Presently at SpiceJet, he's looking after new business development, which includes MRO, air ambulance operations, simulators, and trainings in his role as head of Allied Aviation Business. He is going to be bringing in more of an engineering and operators perspective. And now our next panelist, Mr. D. Anand Bhaskar, Managing Director and CEO, Airworks India Engineering Private Limited. Present across 28 locations in India and overseas, Airworks is the largest independent MRO provider in India. Airworks provides engineering, avionics, and asset management services to a wide spectrum of customers in India and globally. Mr. Bhaskar joined Airworks in 2010 as the Chief Financial Officer, and he steered the diversification of the company's service portfolio into various aviation services, including aircraft interiors and finishing, avionics upgrades, lesser asset management, and airframe upgrades. He speaks to us, he brings in an MRO perspective as he talks to us. Our next panelist, Mr. Krishnendu Gupta, Director, IGRA, Indira Gandhi Rashtriya Udan Academy, the largest flying training academy under the administrative control of the ministry. Shri Krishnendu Gupta is an aircraft maintenance engineer by profession. He has more than 35 years of aviation experience. He has been working with IGRA for the last 3 decades, and IGRA as an FTO has diversified by having bases for flying training operations. They've also got into drone training, ELP training and testing, and soon they're going to be starting with the AME school also. So Mr. Gupta brings in the FTO perspective. Our next panelist, Ms. Poonam Buddhiraja, Delivery Head for TCS Travel and Transportation Business Unit. More than 35 years of IT experience. Ms. Buddhiraja has been part of India's IT journey from start. She's worked with many customers in the aviation, transportation, postal, and government sectors globally in various large programs. In India, she has led some key SI projects for Navy and Army, and more recently as an advisor for the eGCA program. She brings in the global aviation perspective, the IT best practices. And now inviting our moderator of the session, Shri Sandeep Behel, Executive Program Director at US India Aviation Corporation Program. Sandeep is an independent senior advisor of the Global Aviation Practice. He's based in Asia. And Mr. Behel specializes in leading public and private companies, including those in the aviation, consumer goods, and services industries. He partners with the executive teams to achieve cultural transformation of organizations, create market demand, sales, and operations development to lead organizations for sustainable growth. So once again, a very hearty welcome to all our esteemed panelists. May I request him to please take their seats. And before we move into the active discussion, we bring you a short film looking into the journey of eGCA so far. If you can have the film, please. May I request at the console to please play the film?
Imagine over 4,500 aircraft movements, around 1 million footfalls at Indian airports in normal times. All this in a span of just 24 hours. The Indian aviation industry is growing every moment with scores of new pilots added to the rosters as we speak. Maintaining the standards for safe, efficient and transparent air transportation systems is critical. Something the Directorate General of Civil Aviation understands only too well. The DGCA's vision is to promote safe and efficient air transportation through a regulatory framework, services to stakeholders, a proactive safety oversight, right from pilot licensing to approving airline schedules. The DGCA does it all. It lays down the entire framework and policies for safety in India's civil aviation sector and oversees its implementation. The DGCA stands as a case study for success. Its testimony is the sheer magnitude of dreams it gives wings to every single day. But the value system within the organization always seeks to push growth and transformation beyond the 30,000 feet barrier, achieving unmatched transparency with proactive application processing, institutionalizing a comprehensive platform for all stakeholders, applicants and users, reducing multiple touchpoints for licensing, approvals and certification, creating a unique single ID for all stakeholders. Realizing these objectives would see the aviation industry transcend into the digital realm. One where paper-based checks and balances would be a thing of the past, where a unified data source enables a simple and seamless governance procedure. The DGCA turned to TCS as the chosen partner to chart the course for this purpose-led transformation.
I would like to congratulate DGCA for successful launch of various services on the eGCA platform. We are very happy to have partnered with DGCA for building a platform which we believe will make it easier for all stakeholders to do business with DGCA. From TCS perspective, getting it right for the first was the most important aspect. Therefore, the architecture, the design, the user interface, integrating AI, ML, and cloud and other technologies was the most important aspect. I wish all the best to both DGCA and TCS teams who brought this belief to reality.
The e-governance or eGCA program would bring to life a digital aviation industry ecosystem. TCS was entrusted with the responsibility to design, develop, test, implement, operate and maintain the end-to-end solution. A rapid transformation methodology called for workshops to be organized that laid the ground rules for the process, scenarios, pain points, interdepartmental integration, stakeholder communication, and turnaround time for the expected end state. TCS envisioned an end-to-end automated process flow backed by its pioneering machine-first model. Role-play workshops followed wherein stakeholders were exposed to prototypes while walking them through scenarios and collecting feedback to fine-tune systems further. DigiGov was leveraged with new service models built with its accelerator tools and were offered to stakeholders to gauge user satisfaction.
The civil aviation sector is a high technology and a high safety sector, and it is therefore but natural that we should remain at the forefront of technology. The digital transformation of our Directorate General of Civil Aviation will herald a new paradigm in efficiency, ease of doing business, and transparency.
To execute the multi-pronged strategy to the T, time was of the essence. At the directorate levels, teams were formed to detail all aspects of the interface and operations for officials to validate before design. DigiGov provided the framework for the core solution development, including cloud provisioning. Weekly reviews between the TCS and DGCA teams saw office spaces transform into war rooms bustling with activity. Digitization labs were set up and soon became the focal point for all forms of paper records to be digitized before the service's launch. It was 4 phases of a relentless forward-looking pursuit towards a common goal. And what the DGCA and TCS team were able to bring alive was a transformed industry ecosystem like never before.
eGCA is historical, it's magical, and the journey with TCS has been fabulous. We had a great experience working together. Now, what all we achieved? We first digitized 30 million pages of paper, and they are all in digital form now. the various wings of DGCA got integrated and the workflow has become completely seamless. We have got smart licenses, we have got a single window platform, we have got contactless, paperless experience, no need to visit DGCA office. What more do you want?
Single window applications to all concerned directorates. Digital application processes accessed anytime, anywhere. Online submission of documents, unique eGCA identity for every applicant, online application status tracking and updates via SMS and email, help desk to address queries and concerns with the Aakash chatbot available 24/7 on the DGCA website. Card licenses issued to pilot, AMEs, ATCOs with unique QR codes instead of paper booklets, enabling digital access and verification of pilot details from anywhere. Electronic logbooks for pilots, allowing them to fill flying data on the go, replacing bulky physical logbooks. And countrywide access to digitized records for authorities with a single click.
When eGCA was launched, everyone had apprehensions. But as the time passed, and with constant upgradations, it has turned out and progressed into a world-class platform. An all-inclusive approach by the regulator and extensive participation by the industry stakeholders has brought the Indian diaspora of aviation to international standards. Reduced paperwork and smart card licenses has contributed towards green initiative and reduced processing time. E-logbook has made life easy for pilots for updation of hours at just a click of a button. It is our endeavor as pilots and end users to be associated with the regulator's idea of e-shift and to contribute in its success.
I was still in my flying school when eGCA was introduced in 2019, and I became the first CPL holder to obtain the smart card license. The process of shifting from offline to a digital platform is unique with real-time updation of application status. The integration of medical and examination details has made the process of application easier and also has removed the submission of unwarranted documents. The time taken for a medical renewal process has also drastically reduced.
eGCA जब लॉन्च किया गया था वो ई डॉक्यूमेंटेशन और फिजिकल डॉक्यूमेंटेशन बीच का अंतर हमें अच्छे से जस्टिफाई करता है। eGCA लॉन्च के बाद हमको ये पता लगता है जो स्केलेबिलिटी ऑफ डॉक्यूमेंटेशन और जो लिमिटेशन ऑफ सर्विसेज वी हैव एट DTL वो हम अब अच्छी तरह से अवेल कर सकते हैं। eGCA में शुरुआत में जो दिक्कतें या चैलेंजेस हमको आए थे जैसे क्रू वैलिडेशन और ई-लॉगबुक वेरिफिकेशन वो अब काफ़ी हद तक दूर किए जा चुके हैं और इनकी वजह से सिस्टम अब काफ़ी अच्छा और सुदृढ़ बन गया है जिसके द्वारा हम ऑनलाइन मेडिकल असेसमेंट और जो नई सर्विसेज eGCA के द्वारा लॉन्च की गई हैं उनको अच्छे से अवेल कर सकते हैं।
The story of the eGCA will forever stand as testimony of single-minded focus and determination, and that spectacular transformations are possible with the unified vision supercharged by belief.
The e-governance project launched by DGCA in consultation with TCS at the initiative of our Honorable Prime Minister is a great project to digitally access DGCA and its services. It will bring greater ease of doing business with DGCA. It will make the lives and the tasks of stakeholders that much better, and it will ensure that the productivity increases. I wish the DGCA and the TCS the very best and hope that all the stakeholders will enjoy this digital experience.
Based on the Prime Minister's vision for an Atmanirbhar Bharat, I am confident that the unveiling of this eGCA initiative will go a long way in ensuring both ease of doing business in India as well as making ourselves much more focused on an e-governance model. I would like to congratulate all the stakeholders, eGCA in particular, and also all the stakeholders that have come together to make this venture possible. I would also like to take this opportunity to congratulate TCS, an innovative IT solution provider, in assisting us in making sure that we achieve this goal of customer-centric delivery.
So smart, agile,
Imagine
friendly
over
and progressive.
4,500 aircraft.
With this context setting to eGCA, now looking into the way forward, and I hand over to our moderator, Shri Sandeep Behel. Yes.
Thank you, Vimy. Great introductions. I'm not going to go through introductions again for the panelists, but I think you all know them. And if you don't, during lunch, please talk to them. They have good insights about what eGCA is all about. Thank you, everyone, to be here today for this specific launch. The session will deliberate on the futuristic solutions that eGCA provides. But we will not only talk about eGCA, we will also be asking our panelists, some of them are global experts here, how this racks up against some of the global or other countries' DGCA style performance. So with that, I just want to let you know we are a little bit over the time, and I know you'll be very hungry by the time we finish, but please just give us an hour, right? It will be an interesting session, I promise you. I won't talk much, they will talk. The mics are here now, good. So as a champion of diversity that eGCA is and our country is, as you saw the board outside, I'm gonna have the first question to Poonamji. And why Poonamji? Because she worked very hard with Pawan and eGCA guys to put this in fruition, right? So is that okay? Are you ready? Thank you so much. But you know, before I go, please tell us as a key contributor to eGCA, you know, the development that has gone through making this such an actionable tool, how organizations like DGCA and like other government can become more resilient. They become more how, not the organization, but the leaders also, you know, the guys who are really doing the work. They can, within the organization, how they can be more prepared for today and for tomorrow's futuristic world. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandeep. So when you talk about resiliency of an organization, I think in today's world, when we're talking about the digital world, data, sorry. So data is the most important asset that an organization can have. You know, so everywhere in the digital world today, we're talking about you know, data-driven organizations. And the position of DGCA slash eGCA, as we see it now, it's sitting in the middle of a very large ecosystem, right, of the civil aviation within India or anywhere in the world wherever, you know, such organizations are. So it's very important for eGCA going forward to become, you know, a very data-driven organization, not for its own sake, to meet its own, you know, compliances and provide the governance that it needs to do to its larger stakeholder system, but also to enable its stakeholders like the airlines, the MRO, the third-party MRO providers, the end users like the pilots and the AMEs and so on and so forth in the larger ecosystem. So everybody should be able to consume the data that DGCA is sitting on. I mean, we heard about 3 crore pages that have been digitized. I mean, that's zillions of bytes of data. Now, how are we going to leverage that data? And that has to be leveraged. If we just leave it at the first phase of automating the systems, you know, right now what we've done is we've converted the manual system to an automated, digitized systems to enable the, you know, to ease out the functions of the pilots, AMEs, the airlines, and so on and so forth. But in the process now, we are actually beginning to acquire a lot of this information which is coming and sitting on our servers. So we have to be able to leverage that to the extent that we can provide that resilience to the airlines, to the MRO providers, and to DGCA itself. And that actually means being prepared for uncertainties, to be very collaborative, and more than that, also be a trustworthy organization, because this data actually entails a lot of confidential data. So data also has to be protected. So all of these things have to come together to make this whole eGCA will come together to make it a resilient organization. And also I think then as the next steps, we would probably have to look a very comprehensive and extensive data strategy, and then how we leverage that data. And that would be my take on this.
Thank you, Poonamji. Now, data is the new oil. That's what I heard from Prime Minister Modi while he was in Houston not too long ago. And you're absolutely right. One point of yours that you probably all will appreciate, I think DGCA has taken care of their sustainability goal already to zero, right? So many trees are not to be chopped anymore. So Arun Kumarji, you have already done your COP26 goal, probably. So thank you. No, this is great. Thank you, Poonam. I want to ask, we have a very large FTO organization in India. Not many of you probably know. Mr. Ambar Dubey always talks about it. And Krishnendu is here from there. It's before I ask, please can you tell us a little bit about this large organization that training so many good pilots?
Okay, I represent Indira Gandhi Rashtriya Udan Academy, more commonly known as IGRUA. It is having a fleet of 18 aircraft, and presently we are having around 278 cadets at various stages. At a time in the flight operations, we have around 60 people flying in a day, and we try to log around 100 hours subject to good weather and visibility. So our target is to fly 20,000 hours in a year. So with 18 aircraft, 14 instructors, and around more than 200 cadets, this is our target, this is our aim.
So this eGCA has helped you? How it makes your life easy?
Tremendously it has helped, because basically, as you can see, so many cadets, so much of flying being done in a day. So therefore, you can imagine what type of entries will be there. Because so many cadets, every cadet is having some different type of flying. Somebody is doing solo, somebody is doing dual, somebody is doing general flying, somebody is going for a navigational sortie. So like that, there are so many types of flying which goes on in a day. And this eGCA has really helped us a lot. I still remember during the COVID times when this eGCA started, and we were asked to feed all the hours. We used to make good use of those lockdown period, because for that you don't have to mix, you don't have to come close to each other. The cadets used to sit in their rooms because we isolated them in the hostels, so in the hostel rooms. So there they used to sit and feed these hours, and that's how we did a good amount of groundwork, because when we started actually our operations, that time it became a little more easier.
Thank you. Now, Krishnendu, this is great. Like the new cadets, the pilots who are just trying to get into this domain are able to now straight away go into eGCA and forget about the horrific, the Swapna was showing on the video, this thick booklet, and she nicely did this and took out her phone. Did you notice all that? This thick booklet, she just chucked it away. So I think these new pilots will be very happy with that. So great, thank you for saying that. Now let's hear from the largest base of pilots managed by one person in India, right? And he's just sitting there. And I want to know from you, how Indigo, how many pilots you have now? 4,000 is the largest, right? We had only 15,000 pilot licenses, and you have 4,000 with you?
That's right.
Nice. So great. I think it's amazing that probably you're getting some new competition soon then.
Well, that's more than welcome, Sandeep. Thanks.
So now, just please tell us, Captain Mitra, how's the Indigo initiative? Indigo is taking this initiative forward? And I actually want to know from you the long-term benefit you can see. It sounds very good right now. Everybody's saying, hey, great eGCA. Poonam is saying data analytics. Our cadets are very happy. But you are really in the game, right? You have to deal with it. So tell us this initiative, how the future looks like for us.
Sure, Sandeep. Thank you very much. And it's been really heartening since morning to hear so much about eGCA. which has been actually, and if I can recall, it's been there in the core of our heart from last so many years. The story actually goes back to 2012, and there was a mention of it when we had the first meeting with DGCA. And the only thing that DGCA at that time was looking at was how to convert a license to a smart card. Well, it's taken 9 years, but today we are there. So first I would like to thank not only the Ministry of Civil Aviation, but DGCA for having taken this big leap over there and turning this into reality today. Sandeep, I'm not only representing Indigo here, but I'm representing the airline fraternity. And I speak on behalf of all the airlines here that this eGCA portal that we're talking about now for civil aviation is going to make things not only faster, but it's going to make it easier and, like mentioned earlier, less touch points with much lower lead times and much more higher efficiency. Once every directive in DGCA is synced with each other, I think that's the time we're really going to get that benefit. You congratulated Sri Arunji now for actually helping the environment. That is exactly what we're doing in the aeroplane today. We are trying to make that aeroplane cockpit absolutely paperless. We've already evolved into an electronic flight bag, and shortly we're going to go to the regulator and take it to the next level, and that is going to be called the electronic flight folder. And today, in reality, and this is a complaint from all the pilots, when you go on a flight, in spite of having the electronic flight bag, we still have about 80 pages of paper. If Indigo is doing 1,500 flights, you take 1,500 flights, multiply it by 80, and that's the number of paper which is actually going waste at the end of the flight. And why not digitalize it? So I think we are absolutely in sync. We need to move together the way eGCA is moving, and I think we have to keep pace with each other and take all these benefits. I'll give you simple examples, since you mentioned about the benefits. We did an exercise 2 months back, and I'm thankful to our DG, Mr. Arunji, who actually tried to figure out how much time does it take for an AOP to get endorsed. And what I mean an AOP to get endorsed means from the time the aeroplane lands from overseas, gets custom cleared, until the time that aircraft can actually fly. Different airlines have different figures, but we in Indigo had an average of about 20. It is unbelievable that the work that has gone on in the last 1 month, our average is only 6 days. So we are getting a benefit of almost 14 days of flying that aircraft, which was not available that time. So that's a great thing. There is one very typical acronym used in airline flight operations, and that's called NA. And NA is non-availability. Non-availability, and when I'm saying non-availability of a pilot, it used to be very embarrassing for me as head of operations, sitting on a Monday morning meeting with the CEO and CO, and there the numbers are flashed over there that we have, why are we having shortage of pilots? Everybody knows about pilot shortage. And we're going to shortly have those shortages, I'm sure, with the way flying is going to pick up again. It used to be embarrassing to see a figure like 100 NAs a day. Not that the pilot is going to be not available for 100 days, but with 4,000 pilots, the rotation number would actually show as 100. Somebody would get it the next day, but the next day his license would again go. So everything is end of the day, like even our Honorable Minister did mention, that we have to convert everything to a value. Even a simple figure, if I take as 15 to 20,000 rupees salary per day of a man day that is of a pilot not available, would actually boil down to 25 lakh rupees a day. Today, as I speak to you, our non-availability of pilots from 100 has come down to 7. Wow. And kudos to all the stakeholders who have worked jointly together, and I hope I'm not ever embarrassed again with a figure like 100, I hope it's 7 and 7 for, for a strength of 4,000 is absolutely acceptable. So what we are really moving is, we are moving towards global standards. Because if I would be in a meeting overseas, a couple of years back and tell them that non-availability of pilots, they would wonder, what is that? They've never heard a term like this. So this journey, we are thankful that the regulator was having repeated meetings with us, and they heard our concerns, and this big initiative has actually taken us way, way ahead where we are. The second part of your question was, what is the long-term benefit that we're looking? You know, I will just put it in very simple 5 E's. And the first would be, it's going to make the system more efficient. It's going to make the system, number 2, error-free. Number 3, there's going to be easy access. The 4th E would be to enhance safety. You know, as a regulator, you know, I think DGCA is responsible, apart from the airline who's equally responsible for safety. I think this is really going to enhance safety. And of course, none of us have missed out. It's going to make the entire environment more friendly. So thank you very much. I hope I've been able to answer your question. Thank you.
You've been fantastic. I think Minister Scindia will be very happy to hear, because what you just mentioned, that's what he was saying. Our technology doesn't mean if we don't convert it into money, time and money. And that's absolutely what you have said. I think amazing. And looking at, you know, we got to go down to 0, right? You can't be wasting your pilot's time, right? And pilots, I know some of your pilots on standby, waiting, tweaking their hands, can we go tomorrow or not? I think this is absolutely marvelous. But looking at this way, you know, I just saw sitting next to you, you're a good friend, a good competitive friend, right? Shall we say you're competitors or your friend? Today you are friends, right? Great. So Arunji, you know, every time we talk about digitalization, the digi payments, people always talk about, hey, crime ho jayega, mere paise chori ho jayenge, right? So I want to know, like, with this, how you will, and you know, so if all of you know, Arun is doing a great job at SpiceJet. He's the Chief Transformation Officer for an airline which is small and nimble, but at the same time going through some tough times, like all other airlines, right? So he's doing a great job, because SpiceJet planes are still flying, right? So thank you for that. So I would like to ask you, with the new virtual and physical threats that generally comes when people say about digitization, and some kind of disinformation that flows with it. What are your, when they emerge, how you see this? When we launch eGCA, or what Poonamji was saying with the data analytics. So what are your take on that? Thank you.
No, thanks for that information. I would like to congratulate DGCA for launch of eGCA. We have been using this service for last 1.5 years, and so in COVID times especially, it makes life so easy that we don't have to meet officers. We can send the files over email, or we can do it on eGCA. We have done so many new things, including cargo on seats. I think India is the first country to do that, allow that in last year, 2020, April 2020. And it was from support from DGCA, and we could use that e-services. So I would like to highlight here, and we all know that in aviation, the records are very important. Without records, the airplane is piece of metal. It can't fly. So the privacy, security, data theft, all these things are a real challenge. And I'm sure that with TCS and DGCA on board, they have taken care of that. But in real world, this has been happening. The servers have been hacked for Facebook. The server has been hacked for many banks. So this is a real challenge for the global scenario. And whenever some new things happen, some revolution happens, some innovative things happen, there are some people who try to take advantage on other side also. And which IT coming in picture, this is a new revolution for human beings. Everything has been changed. You can order your food on phone. You can do the banking on phone. Now you can fly the aircraft with digital data. So I would see that yes, there is a challenge. It would probably the people who are having a knowledge of the system, who can use a digital platform, would be using for their advantage, and there will be some people who will be deprived, who doesn't know, who do not have access to the technology. That challenge is definitely going to be there. So like capitalism that divide the world in rich and poor, my perception is digitization or transformation of technology should not enhance that gap further. So to do that, I know that the governments and socialists or economists must be thinking around and must be dividing or must be coming up with some solution or improvise the penetration of this technology.
No, thank you. No, this is remarkable. I think any disruptive technology, generally people have this phobia about crime, the cybersecurity, and we were lucky with eGCA especially, with the TCS background. I think this system is pretty robust. I'm pretty positive on that. But we have been listening a lot about pilots. eGCA is not about pilots only. Please believe me. Out of 2,988 applications that are going to go into this platform, only 99 have gone, and pilots are being taken care of nicely. But let's hear from our friend. He's from AeroWorks, one of the very large provider. Again, I think you're the largest in India, or probably in Southeast Asia, right? Provider of maintenance services and MRO services in India. And Anand and I know a long time. I think this is third or fourth time I'm moderating him. So please, and he's wealth of knowledge he has. So I want to ask you, let's look at one scenario. Pandemic, post-pandemic. And I want to ask you about with the post-pandemic economy taking shape now, as we can see, we are all here now in physical presence. How's AeroWorks' mission to shape this business is coming along? And especially how digitalization is playing a role, whether it's important role or whatever way. Thank you.
First of all, congratulations to DGCA for launch of e-governance platform. This is an amazing platform. In terms of what pandemic got us into it, in terms of focus on digitization. When the pandemic struck us, the first thing, of course, was the focus on ensuring a safety net for the employees and ensuring safety net for the company as well, because company survival also is one of the important one. But the next focus was on digitization. How do we involve our employee base in the entire process of running the company? So initially we focused on getting them onto simple things like a communication platform like Teams, and then a banter, a platform where you can interact like Yammer, then getting employees onto the employee management system. And finally, then we looked at the various processes which are there in the company to see how we can digitize. So we launched our own MRO system, where that was an in-house system that we developed called Titan. And very recently, when most of the redelivery checks were happening, there was a need for better communication with the customer and also within the organization between the various stakeholders, right from the AME to PPC, which is production planning and control, to the planning function, to the stores, to the procurement, and again the chain back in this in a reverse order, and finally ensuring that the customer is involved and up to date on what's happening. During pandemic, the country has seen a whole lot of redelivery checks happening in the country, and it was important that with the restriction on travel, with the issues around COVID, the information flow to the customer was seamless. So we developed something called MSite, which is maintenance insight for our customers, and within the company, where the entire workflow was managed, and there was a clear visibility of on 3,000 plus work orders that you would issue on each of the redeliveries. So sitting in Delhi, my favorite customer, Mr. Dash, can on his mobile see where his redelivery check is, what items have been ordered, what have not been ordered, what are the pending work orders because of which are pending because of lack of spares which have come in, and when is the likely date in which the aircraft can be redelivered to the customer. So as a company, the focus on digitization has been huge, and as an industry, the focus on digitization has been used. And as the minister said, the productivity improvement, the cost improvement, the time improvement, and removing the NBA, non-value added systems, and making the decision making very objective rather than subjective. So that really brought in those kind of digitization, brought in those kind of changes, and ensured that we are able to deliver at a very cost-effective and in a very seamless manner.
Thank you. This is also you now you can hear right from what Anand is saying, the productivity gains, the sustainability, and the transparency. One thing that just I heard from Anand is a customer on his mobile phone can check what is going on with his plane. Otherwise it's used to be so long process to identify how the information and the process flow is going on. So getting digitized and and eGCA is part of it, right? Poonam, can you tell me what you just heard, how the eGCA now can develop into a better information flow? But I would also like to hear from TCS, because they're not only in India, right? You are a global company or you're still Indian company? Global company, right? All right, good. So please tell us how the other countries, what we have embarked on in DGCA. I don't see many countries on that path yet.
Well, so if I take the last part of it first, then the observation, my observation is that some countries do have online portals for some of these functions, like for the issuance of licenses, which are more end-user facing functions. Now, how well they are integrated in the larger ecosystem is something that we don't really know about. However, on the other aspect, which is not really the topic of discussion, there is a lot of development, and we had touched upon that, which is not in the purview of this discussion. So, but in terms of the services that we're talking about here for the regulatory compliances, there are some online portals like the US has, and I think some of the more developed countries in Europe have these online portals. Then coming back to your first part of the question, which is how eGCA can actually be can become a facilitator for the likes of MRO and the airlines and all. So I think what like I said earlier, eGCA is now sitting on a very rich asset, and that has to be leveraged. So what can be done is, for example, I'm just going to take one example where we know of one case where the pilots have to enter the information twice, I think, on the airline side as well as on the DGCA side, right? So that information is now duplicated in the airline systems as well as in the DGCA systems. Now here is an opportunity to actually make DGCA the single owner of that data, right? And the airline can actually become a consumer. So if the pilot is singularly registered here with all the the data, that can actually be consumed by the airline. And for doing that, there are some architectural changes in the IT language, so they can be consumed through what we call as microservices, through APIs and so on. So likewise, even in the MRO. So the MRO, like AeroWorks, is already digitized. So there could be a lot of information exchange, when you're talking about the airworthiness of the aircraft just before it takes off. So there is a consumption of data that can actually go both ways, and the IT systems collaborating together can actually make it very convenient, right? So I think that is what we are really talking about here going forward. See, the third part, I think also we also have to consider, so we are talking about the pilots and the airlines and the MROs who are the, the consumers and the users of this data with, the agencies which are generating the data. And there is a whole, system in the backend of DGCA itself. Your backend people who are actually performing people in the directorates who are going through the, using that data and providing, going through performing the processes and the operations of verifying and validating that data through whatever is sitting in the system. I think there is also an opportunity now to look at automating that and reducing the workload on the back end. I mean, eventually I think our vision should be to get rid of that manual back end completely and have that as a totally automated system. And it's possible. There are tools today, technology enables that, and it is something that that is not very difficult to achieve. And I think it will make it very simply, especially when people have to go through a lot of this information that's on the, even on the system for searching or for actually, looking for all the data for providing the certification and all of that they have to do. So I think that is something that we should really be looking at. So we can actually have a system which is more intelligent, more capable through use of the artificial intelligence, machine learning tools, and there are many such.
Thank you, Puram. This artificial intelligence is the new buzz thing that's going on around with the blockchain technology that we have heard. You talk about this global part, but very little, we all understand US and Europe are there. We have some experts here, they've worked all around the world. I want to ask Anand first. Your experience in UK, Dubai, where else you have worked? What do you think where we are now with eGCA, especially when it comes to governance and regulatory part? Oh, he's looking at his time. He can talk all day on that, right?
Well, till very recently, we were present in UK. We were present in 5 locations in UK. Many of the aircrafts which came into the country were first painted by us in Toulouse by Airworks before they flew down into the country, the AC-20s and ATRs. And in France, we were present at 3 locations, Toulouse, Bordeaux, and Chartres. Similarly, we were present in Dubai, we were present in US, and before pandemic, we divested out of those and brought in the capital and experience back into the country. COVID was nothing to do with it. That was more a strategy of the company. The only good thing was the God's blessing that we were able to do that just before COVID, so that went off well for us. Not only that, even within the country, we are regulated by more than 26 regulators across the globe, beyond DGCA and YASA. So we get to know the digitization efforts that people, regulators across the globe are doing, though in a limited way from a MRO standpoint, not the entire plethora of activities which are done, but a limited way to extent of MROs. I would say that the eDGCA portal that we have developed is one of the best in terms of taking care of the entire workflow. There are e-tools by some of the regulators which finally give you that pilot card. However, the back-end process is all paper still. Here, in true sense, we are digitizing the entire paper flow. I know of UK, I know of France, where still there's a lot to be done on digitization. It's nice to have a E word in front of everything that you say, but are you digitizing the entire workflow? Which is what DGCA here in India has been able to do. I guess the only other place I found the system to be very effective is out of UAE, the GCA. They have a fairly decent system, and it took them almost 8 years to reach where they have reached. So any new system development, there is a lot of fight which has to happen here than outside. It has to happen in the mind. It is the cap tooling which has to be put in place, the change acceleration process which has to be put in place, and there has to be a involvement of larger stakeholders. I guess as the system rolls on and we start experiencing it, there will be areas for improvement which I'm sure we can incorporate it into the system as we keep testing it. But to answer your question, I think it is one of the best that we have seen across the globe, across the 26 odd regulators that we have been dealing with. So kudos to DGCA for developing such a lovely customer-centric system.
Great, no, this is great to hear. Let's ask Arun. You've been flying, you're doing international flights now?
We do.
And you're still trying to get to many countries, right?
Yes.
How's your experience with dealing with those guys there?
No,
give me some countries examples too, so they can stop you flying next.
No, so...
So be careful now. Thank you.
So I worked in Dubai for 5 years. As Anand mentioned, that eGCA system was very advanced at that time also, and they took so much time to mature the system. Truly, eGCA is amongst the best e-governance system any country is having in the regulatory groups. I have not seen such a vast services because we have so many directorates. Integrating those directorates through eGCA is a big challenge. Earlier, I understand, and we have been dealing with DGCA, that file used to move physically from one desk to another and one directory to another, from one region office to another. Except for the US and China, we are the only country which is having so many regional offices taking care of aircraft, and we are expanding at 19-20%. We truly need e-governance system or eGCA system to upload the data, to manage the aircrafts and other services, aerial services in India. Only thing which I would like to see is the system has to be more interactive, that the two people, or rather the user as well as the regulator, could interact through the eGCA, SMS, WhatsApp, or emails. It should be the quick questionnaire or a quick resolution to that. That's a thing which we need to evolve in eGCA. Otherwise, it's fantastic.
No, great point. And I think you were very diplomatic in answering this question. Thank you. No, did a great job. I want to ask Captain Mitra again. You have heard some good things about it, right? So how you think in future, let's look at from the airline point of view, not pilot's point of view, this eGCA, and let's talk about the total digitization. As you mentioned already, you're going to save so much money, but how you can see these services from end to end, how it will benefit Indigo?
Okay, thank you, Deep. So, there's again an old saying that when you get something, you want something more. Okay, and I have a big wish list over here. And that's my wish list, and I'm going to give you a couple of wish lists which I feel, not only from the pilot's perspective, but from an airline perspective again, which could really be beneficial. It's not about competition with the competitor here, but I'm a very firm believer that if we try competing with a competitor, we'll be wasting most of the time seeing what the competitor is doing. What is really important to see is what was I doing yesterday, and can I do something better today? Okay, so I would request DGCA for new service delivery timelines. When we were doing paper transactions, we knew that, okay, a license is going to take 20 days. Today we've gone into this digital world. So I would request DGCA surely to redefine these timelines so that we can also be sure about it. Quite a few of the panelists have already mentioned about provisions of APIs so that application programming interface can take place and everyone can talk to each other. So that's for sure. The other thing that we would is our wish list. Different directorates getting connected with each other, and that's got huge benefits. There is no doubt about it. System integration between the regulator and the operator, and I know, like Poonam did mention, that there is huge risk in that. Some data security has to be there because there is too much of information over there. So there should be no misuse of that, so that has to be done in a very safe platform. System integration is not only going to make, and again, I would love to give you another example. You know, in today's modern aeroplane, a pilot takes off and he lands. So he chocks out, he gets airborne, he touches down, and he comes in, parks the aeroplane. Like somebody did mention, and I think in the earlier session, that the pilot used to take and physically, our minister mentioned that he used to physically fill up the logbook. Today, this aeroplane captures everything. It not only captures the taxi out time and the chocks on time, it even captures the airborne time and the touchdown time. We as an airline have a software where we pick the data from the aircraft, and it is there with our operation control center immediately. But still, the regulation wants that the pilot needs to fill up a logbook. Okay, so there is still some manual work. So once we have this data integration, and I think this information can go there. Not only that, I know how many logbooks and how many licenses get returned because the timing is not correct. So this is going to make it absolutely error-free. There is no possibility of any error, and I think we should take the full advantage of this. You know, for the flight operations, I think the Flight Standards Directorate is the first point of contact with when we have to go to DGCA. You know, there are very, very strict rules on duty monitoring. How many hours a pilot can fly and how many hours of duty a pilot can perform. Now, every time there's an audit, you know, we spend days over there in the audit just trying to figure out, pulling out data, which pilot took off, whether the duty time was being followed or not followed. If this data integration happens, I think FSD doesn't even have to come for an audit to the airline. They can sit over there, pick up the data and say, okay, so-and-so pilot, there has been a violation. And then you can penalize the airline or the pilot, whatever it takes. Training is another area. And again, this is another big thanks to DGCA for this huge paradigm shift that has recently taken place. It's again an aviation jargon, and it's called evidence-based training. So future training for pilots is not going to be the way it used to be conventionally earlier, but it's going to be based more on evidence. Where do you get this evidence? You get it from data. The aeroplane is just milking out trillions of bytes of data on every flight. So that data is going to be used. So our training management system of the aircraft should be linked with the operator. The operator exactly knows that what sort of, instead of doing an audit and trying to find out. There are many more areas where like I told you, my wish list is huge. So today, a safety risk assessment is the backbone of every operation in the airline. You want to go to Jordan, you have to do a safety risk assessment. You get a charter to go to Georgia, you have to do a safety risk assessment. Today, we do the safety risk assessment all on paper. Somebody takes that file, goes to DGCA, submits it over there, sits with the POI over there, finishes the work, and then we get it. Then we get a green signal, and we say, okay. Then we tell the charter company we're ready to fly. So there's still, I think there's a lot more to do. Like I said, the wish list is absolutely, is very, very large.
I will take your wish list, and I'm sure Pawanji and ma'am will be happy to go through that wish list. But I think you have raised very good points here. One thing that I missed so far from all of you is real customer, like Sandeep. What benefit eGCA is going to give to us? We are not pilots, we are not mechanics. We just pay you money to fly.
So you'll never see a flight cancellation because of a license not available. That's for sure.
Fantastic. That's what we wanted to hear. Absolutely.
So I can add, there are so many things which you can go on DGCA website. Want to see the airworthiness status of aircraft, registration, any institute is blacklisted or any organization is there which is approved, so that anybody can go and see.
No, this is great, right? Great achievement for all of us too. I want to ask a question to Mr. Krishnendu, and after that, you have an opportunity to ask a question to the panelist. Not to me, not to DGCA, to the panelist, right? So, Mr. Nand, now it's coming out very good. What do you think our new cadets, our new pilots coming from you, what experience they'll be going through with eGCA, and whether they will become overnight global pilots, you think, or they be still have to go through different ways of get their license approved with eGCA?
Right, I understood. The thing is that not only IGRUA is the FTO, all FTOs in the country, whoever are operating, their cadets who are flying, now they are getting exposed, because all this while I was listening to MRO, airline, but just try to understand that FTOs are, like primary school. They are, the cadets are joining, they are learning to become pilots. Once they become pilots, then only they will be serving the airline. So, what I am trying to say is that during their learning stage at the FTO, when they are learning the flying, at the same time, they are also getting exposed to this fantastic digitalization. So what happens when they pass out from these flying schools, from these FTOs, when they join the airline, they are already having all that knowledge with them, with which they can move ahead as trained, professionals. This is what I feel.
Fantastic. No, this is what we want. We want our pilots, our training pilots, also be recognized globally, instantaneously. The QR code that Pavanji was showing on his video, if you see that QR code from your cell phone, anywhere in the world, you can actually go through and see whether Mitraj is really flying or he's just making sure pilots are flying. So that's a great QR thing that we have. Okay, question. Anyone has a question here? Oh, great. No question seems like. Nobody's prepared. Oh, you are prepared. No, you can say, I will repeat it. Oh, there's a mic.
Hello. So do you hear me? Okay. So good afternoon to you all. I'm Dr. Sanjeev Sood. I'm a DGCM paneled doctor and also paneled with other regulators across the globe. So I have some of the observations based on the deliberations of the eminent panelists. So one point you have said is that so many millions of bytes generated and data being a big asset and so many millions of paper being saved. So what appears is that there's a lot of things which have been done is just digitization of the existing forms without any value addition or seeing that what steps are important, what steps are redundant, and what should be the workflow design and what should be the graphic user interface and the user friendliness. So on those aspects we feel that it is lacking and there is some need for improvement, because we spend large amount of time on the eGCA portal every day, and it ends up being more time that we spend with the pilot or the patient. So it should be the other way around, that we spend more time with the client. So that is one query that I have. Second query is that the most important part of any IT project is the customer satisfaction. So I believe that whatever surveys have been done, so if you can share that how much is the clientele satisfaction to the whole eGCA platform. And thirdly, when Captain Mitra says we can share the information with the DGCA, DGCA being the owner of the information and operators being the users, but there may be a lot of SOPs and evidence-based training practices which may be the intellectual property of the organization itself. So how keen will they be share it with the regulator? So these are some of the queries that came to my mind, being the extensive user of eGCA portal, which we spend about 3 to 4 hours every day.
No, thank you, doctor. Who wants to? Okay, Arunji is ready. Good.
No, thanks. I think what importantly we have to move from scanning a document to the DGCA site to uploading the files, and that's what Poonam was mentioning earlier, that we can directly upload things. Many places there are CSV files or .pdf or .jpeg directly downloaded from OEMs, or you have the documents, those should be directly going to the eGCA. and some forms which are fillable on the site itself, rather than having a physical copy signed and uploading the documents. That will the one which you are looking for. Once we create that database, and I'm sure we have more experts here who can help us that how we can improvise, but there is always a scope of improvisation.
So just going to doctor's question over there, and I love that phrase he said, I rather spend more time with the patient than actually spend so much time in the portal. So he's absolutely right, and I think that brings up productivity. So instead of seeing three patients in a day, he'll be able to take care of 4 or 5 patients. But what I could read in between the lines, what he was trying to say is, and this is again a request to DGCA, is that there will be certain rules that will have to be also looked into. Because if we have technology moving at a fast pace, but we still have the archive rules, it'll never catch pace. So I think it'll be a great idea to look into some of the rules, some task force, somebody can work on it, and make sure that these rules also are changed to a certain extent that technology and the rule, everything can be well synchronized and move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Great answer. I think it's good answers for you, right? Thank you. Anyone else has a question? Quick question. So please don't ask 3 questions. Just one. Yeah.
Yeah, my question basically is to Ashim, and also a submission to senior functionaries of DGCA who are here today. What we find is that there are certain systemic issues which are universal to all airlines, and these can be resolved only when there is a close meeting between the stakeholder, the concerned DGCA officials, and the TCS backend team. Unless that takes place, the issues may not get resolved. So is there a proposal to do something like that? Thank you.
I think it was a collaborative anyways, right? The whole portal was designed as a very collaborative. Airlines, governor, regulators, service providers were all together. But you have better experience.
But I think what Captain Ish is asking is, because he's also a pilot and he's running a cargo airline down south. So what he's saying is that, during the initial stages, when the system was being built, if there could have been more involvement. We did have a couple of meetings where it was very nice of the DG himself to come, and he said that, okay, fine, let me take a stock of everything, what's happening. And a lot of integration and a lot of interaction started after that. And that's why we are today, we are sitting in a very sort of a comfortable position today. So I think he says that as and when new things come in, I think, there could be more participation from the stakeholders, and we can talk to each other, in fact, take a sign-off.
Yeah.
Take a sign-off and say that, okay, fine, you guys, we are equally a stakeholder. You say, okay, you also, a stakeholder needs to sign. Take a sign-off and then launch it. I think that's your question. No, so I think we've got a representative of DGC over here, and I'm sure they've heard it.
No, great question. I think our team is...
Yeah. IT perspective, I would also like to add that, so we've achieved a certain level of, digitization at this point in time. And, the question that Dr. Saab raised and, the issue that he's raising here are quite similar in the sense that, perhaps there is a feeling of lesser user interaction. Now, some of these systems which are now moving from very legacy, archaic systems to a new generation transformed systems, there would have to be a whole cycle of continuous improvements that will come in. And I think this kind of feedback is welcome, and we would actually like to keep getting that and looking upon it. And I'm sure there is a governance forum which has been set up for a more collaborative effort to bring about these improvements. So that's going to
thank you. I think that's a great start, right? Thank you. I know there was another questions there. If you ask question, we will be getting delayed for lunch. Your choice. Please go ahead. Doesn't seem like anyone is hungry. They're all happy to hear this question, right? Thank you. अरे आपको पूछ रहे वो पूछ चलिए आप भी पूछ लीजिए.
Actually मुझे पूछना नहीं है.
अच्छा खाना खिलाना है. Very good.
नहीं
एक्चुअली जो TCS रिप्रेजेंटेटिव हैं मैं उनसे रिक्वेस्ट करना चाह रहा था. आई एम शरद चंद्र झा, Assistant VP and CAM from OSS Air Management, the industry. Actually, currently, if we are stuck somewhere in the services, or if we observe any bug there, the resolution, the rectification process is very slow. Sometimes it takes more than a month to rectify that problem. Last 15 days we are not able to log in to the eGCA portal, and we have been continuously following up with the TCS, but it is not resolved. So my request is, if we are getting, we get the resolution faster, then the compliance will be more easy for everyone. Thank you so much.
Good point. So, you know, while the mic is going there, you heard from Poonam, there's a plan for continuous improvement, what we call Kaizen, where this is launched, but it will be improved. You probably have seen with the digital money, right, we've been doing. So I'm pretty sure the backup is there. We'll continue to improve it. Six Sigma is already been deployed here. TCS is very big on that. So I think your things should sort out very soon. But Poonamji can also help you next. Sir.
Yeah, myself Pramod Kumar Baranwal. I am working as Chief Manager Coordination in Liaison Office, Delhi. And I congratulate DGCA for this initiative, and we have been using this portal for a couple of years. And what my suggestions is there, we have faced a little problem in this. Like TCS can resolve this problem. I have seen that other website like RCTC and other things, when some forms we fill up and we get stuck, or we are wrongly fill up the form, whatever for registration or anything on e-portal, then it gets revert back in other system. But here what we see, that we face problem later, and what he was explaining the similar things, that we face later the problem to resolve and again fill up the form in the same way. So whether we can have the system, if some operator or some stakeholder is filling the form wrongly, then whether we can get it revert back and we can again freshly fill up the form immediately. Thank you.
Good point. I think we can. I've noted it down. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. So last question coming.
I hope the colleagues from DGCA are over here. I have a question. Now, what is the timelines for FTO? For example, an airport operator, when it gives an approval or NOC to an FTO, and then later on he goes to the Airports Authority of India, he gets an approval from there also, NOC. Then that organization, the FTO submits the form to the DGCA through the e-services. Now, then after that, what are the timelines for the DGCA to approve that one? Because everything happens on the e-services. Then what are the timelines, that particular FTO organization gets an approval? If that is not approved, there could be certain question asked, but there should be some timelines about that one. It's just my question. I'm sure DGCA colleagues are over here. Either they can raise up the matter with Arun Kumar ji or...
Yep, they can email. You can email to him directly, right? Pawanji is there. Only he can answer that. No one from us can answer.
No, that's why I mentioned DGCA. I didn't mention to them.
Thank you so much. Okay, I know I'm getting a little bit hungry, and Vimi is saying, hey, uska time bhi khatam ho gaya hai. So let me, I wanted to wrap it up, what we have been doing, but so many notes, both the pages are filled. So let me do a quick wrap up. I just want to say, first of all, our discussions today, and you will all hopefully agree, so far show that technology and digitalization and the investments into these are proving their worth. You heard from Mitraji, you heard from Arun, these are the companies are making tech-based changes which are bridging more of the technology. There was a divide between technology and business, and that divide has been bridged. Some of you also suggested that the average time that we are taking, and especially on the transformation side, 2012, as Arunji said in the morning, 2012, it was perceived by Bhularji, but only in 2019, the real action happened. So that time is also being now results in better activities now. And what you heard from Mitraji, You know, the downtime of 108 hours, days to now 7 days is coming great. And the companies with top performing IT organizations, especially in this case, the regulator, the industry worked with TCS and PwC. I think this has differentiated us in India. While we are all working together, we have world-class companies, we have world-class users, we have world-class regulators. They all understand what is, but then these silos, as Minister also mentioned, that these silos were broken down and worked together. And you know, some of your queries that are coming, they're all hearing, they're all listening, and I saw Pavanji is already making a note of this. So I think this is what this technology and digitalization is going to do for us going forward in future. I would like to thank especially Vimy first for introducing me earlier. Thank you. I also want to thank our friends from Pavanji to having me here, and Manoj from FICCI. And I would like to thank all the audiences, the excellencies here, media, our panelists, organizers, especially FICCI and DGCA for this session. I think I would like to say now, thank you so much. Thank you very much. And we look forward to you at the lunch place, or Vimy will tell us whether we're going to get big queues on the lunch or short queues. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Behel, and thank you to all the panelists for your very experiential views and very constructive suggestions and recommendations. We are sure this is going to be helping further building eGCA platform and updating, upgrading it, making it world-class and in the best interest of all the stakeholders. So thank you to all the participants also for your active participation, for your views also. That definitely supports us all. With that, we draw curtains here. I sign off and invite you all to please join us for lunch. There's going to be less of queues there, I assure you that. Please enjoy.